Hi everyone. Today we will learn about transportation in human beings, transportation in plants, and if I got sufficient time, I will also teach you about excretion in human beings and excretion in plants. So before we go further, first of all, our first topic will be transportation in human beings. All right. So before we go further, I will quickly, make some clarification on the blood composition, on the role of blood. As we have started in the previous lesson in the respiration part, we have learned, we know that how the blood plays a very, very important role in transportation of oxygen, right? Oxygen that comes, through inhalation, through respiration, it goes to the trachea, and from the trachea it goes to our lungs, right? And from in the lungs there are some structures, right? And bronchus is there, tertiary, primary bronchus is there, secondary bronchus is there, and tertiary bronchus, right? And the next balloon-like structure, which is called alveolus, it plays a very, very important role in transportation and diffusion of oxygen, right? So alveoli, which has a high concentration of oxygen, it transport oxygen from the alveoli there, from that place, from the very place alveoli to blood capillaries. And as we all know, the blood, alveoli is surrounded by blood capillaries. A minute microscopic structures called blood vessels, called capillaries. It surrounds the alveoli, right? So from alveoli, oxygen is diffused, transported to blood capillaries, and in the blood capillaries, oxygen binds. Oxygen binds with RBCs. Right, it binds like this, RBC. You will learn more about this in class 11 and 12, higher class, and also if you study medical studies. So oxygen which comes from the alveoli, it binds with RBCs, right? And it also, actually, RBCs, of course it was you, in a lighter sense you will say RBCs, but actually it binds with hemoglobin. Alright, you will learn about hemoglobin, all these things in higher class. Just let us assume now that it binds with what? RBC, blood vessels. Right. So that's how transportation of oxygen takes place. Alright, but we should know that there is a different two types of blood. Two types of blood we should say. There's one is oxygenated blood and another is deoxygenated blood. And oxygenated blood means already purified one, which has an oxygen, right? And deoxygenated blood means the blood. Deoxygenated blood means a blood which doesn't contain oxygen, right? And oxygenated blood means which has blood which contains oxygen. Deoxygenated means a blood which doesn't contain oxygen. Right. So I will quickly show the diagram now. So we know that oxygen is transported by the blood. Right. But actually here we need a pumping structure, a pumping organ to transport blood, right? To transport blood to every part of our body. It includes our, main organs, everything, you say lungs, kidney, pancreas and everything, our tissues, our veins we have here, radial artery, artery and veins, all this plays a crucial role in transportation of blood, right? So we need structure. We need a structure to pump blood. You have a hand pump. When you push the handle of the hand pump, the water is drained from the underground water, isn't it? So such mechanism, such idea concept also plays with the heart. The heart plays an important role in transportation of blood. That is why our heart is we have heart, 2/3 of our heart area lies in left side, right, in the thorax area. So heart plays an important role in transportation of blood. So now let us quickly see the circulatory system. Circulatory system means blood circulation, how the blood is circulated, how the blood is transported to every part of body organs or tissues, everything. We have red blood cells. Everything. When we rub like this, we see a reddish coloration. All these things. Why this happening is because we have blood everyone in our body. So this blood, where does it come from? It comes from our heart. It is a place. The heart is a place where the blood is pumped to every part of our body. So now let us quickly see the diagrammatic presentation, of our circulatory system. Now we will see a diagrammatic presentation of circulatory system. Circulatory system, it shows the circulation of blood, right? So first of all, I have told you many times that diagrammatic presentation is very important in exam point of view, right? So if you draw this diagram like this, in a very systematic way, the examiner, the teacher who checks your answer paper will give you a nice marks, right? So now let us quickly go to circulatory system. I'll explain you. So I'll explain you. You pay attention properly. All these things are very complicated. So you need a broader attention. All right. So here it is a structure. This actually this is a vein, a big vein, which is called as superior vena cava. Right. And there is inferior vena cava. So inferior vena cava. This inferior means lower part. Superior means upper part, right? So this superior vena cava and inferior vena cava, it brings deoxygenated blood, right? Deoxygenated. I have told you many times. Before that deoxygenated blood means a blood which does not contain oxygen, right? Keep that in mind. So superior and inferior vena cava brings deoxygenated blood, and it pour the deoxygenated to this right atrium, right? So before, but I will let you know one thing, that heart has 4 chambers. If a teacher or anybody asks you how much chamber does the heart have, then you should tell that it's 4 chambers. 4 chambers heart. Like in amphibians and some organisms, some reptiles, they have a 3rd chamber heart. Alright, 3rd chamber heart. Some doesn't have a ventricle. I mean, some only have 1 ventricle. They doesn't have 2 ventricles. But in human beings, we have 2 ventricles. So our heart has 4 chambers. Right? What are 4 chambers? A right atrium. This is 1 chamber. This is 1 chamber, and this is another chamber. And this is 1 chamber, this is another chamber, right? This chamber is right atrium, this chamber is right ventricle, and this chamber is left atrium, and this chamber is left ventricle. Alright. So now, as I've told you earlier, the deoxygenated blood comes from inferior vena cava and superior vena cava. Alright. This deoxygenated blood comes from every part of our body, or from hand, from every organ, from our tissues. Deoxygenated blood, it comes from every part of our body, and it goes through superior vena cava, and it goes down. It pours down to this. What is this part? What is this chamber? This is right atrium. All right. So from right atrium, the blood again pours down to, what is this part? Right ventricle. Alright. Alright. So the blood comes from the right. The blood comes from the superior vena cava, inferior vena, and the blood is stored here for some time, right? And after some time, this atrium contracts, and because of contracts, there is a opening of valve. This is very complicated. This is very complicated. You will not understand probably. You will understand in class 11, 12. But there is a valve. There is a opening of something, a door-like structure. It's a valve. You know. The opening of this valve let the blood goes through the right atrium to right ventricle. Right. So contraction of this right atrium let the opening of valve here. Valve means something which close and open. Right, a structure which close and open. So because of the contraction means shaking, you say in layman terms, shaking or something like that. Contract. Because of contraction, the valve is open, this window is open, and during that time, the blood goes to right ventricle. Alright, now the blood is in the right ventricle, and from there the blood will be pumped up to pulmonary arteries. There's two pulmonary arteries, right? The blood is pumped through this right ventricle to the lungs. The blood will be now taken to lungs through pulmonary arteries. There's a two main branch of pulmonary arteries. This is one branch, this is another branch, right? So the pulmonary artery takes away deoxygenated blood from right ventricle to lungs. Right, lungs is not shown here, but assume that here is something. Lungs is here. All right. So the pulmonary arteries takes away deoxygenated blood from right ventricle to the lungs. All right, and in lungs there will be a exchange of gases. All right, and from there the blood will be purified. All right, in the lungs. So the lungs now convert. Remember this concept. Lungs convert deoxygenated blood to oxygenated blood. Okay, lungs convert deoxygenated blood to oxygenated blood. All right. So now we have a what? Oxygen. Oxygenated means the blood which has oxygen. Right. So the oxygenated blood comes from lungs through these pulmonary veins, these two veins, these pulmonary veins, these two veins bring the oxygenated blood from the lungs to this. What is this? This is the left atrium. Right. This is another chamber where the blood is stored. Now the blood is oxygenated. Right. So now the oxygenated blood is in the left atrium. So the left atrium will also contract. Right. And contraction of this will open bicuspid valve. This is called bicuspid valve. You will learn this in higher class 11 and 12. Now you should know, it's okay if you do not know the tricuspid valve also, tricuspid and bicuspid valve. So here, because of this contraction of atrium, because of contraction of this left atrium, the valve here, something opens up, a door like, same like here, similar like in your right atrium. The left atrium also opens the doorway, the doorway it opens, and that's how the blood goes, oxygenated blood goes to left ventricle. Alright. And from the left ventricle, the blood is now goes towards every part of our body. Right. Blood is taken away by aorta. This is aorta. This is a large aorta. Right. This aorta, actually it is a pulmonary trunk. right? I mean, this is a pulmonary aorta. It is right. The oxygen blood is taken away by aorta, right? There is a valve. Here is also a valve. The opening of this valve is called a similar valve, but this is where you learn in class 11. So opening of this valve, let the blood goes. This aorta, this artery, na, actually it lies behind, and this is pulmonary artery. It lies, in the front side, and this lies in the behind. It's in the behind. All right, this is front, this is behind. All right, understand this concept. So the blood, which is in the left ventricle, goes out towards aorta, and from the aorta, the blood is transported to every part of our body. Aorta is aorta is a big artery, big artery, and it is again divided into common carotid artery, subclavian artery. So many things you will learn this if you study medical studies, right? So here, aorta takes away blood from left ventricle and transported to every part of our body, right? So this whole idea, this whole concept is very, very important. If you go for studying zoology, to go for studying medical science or any, be it BDS or any kind of studies associated with medicine and all, right? So I will explain you lastly. The blood, the deoxygenated blood comes from every part of the body, and it enters to superior vena cava and inferior vena cava, and from the superior and inferior vena cava it goes to right atrium. From the right atrium, the blood goes down to right ventricle through the opening of this valve, bicuspid valve. Contraction of atrium makes the opening of valve, and the blood enters in the right ventricle, right? And from the right ventricle, the blood is transported to pulmonary arteries, pulmonary trunk. But there are two trunk, and there are one trunk. One trunk is, this is the whole structure is a trunk, pulmonary trunk, and it's divided into pulmonary arteries, two pulmonary arteries, right? And this here pulmonic valve also opens. Every time when the blood enters, there is a valve opening of window, right? So the blood goes out from the right ventricle to the pulmonary arteries, right? Alright, and from pulmonary arteries takes blood, right, from right ventricle to the lungs, and from lungs the exchange of gases takes place, gas of blood takes place, and from there the blood is the deoxygenated blood is converted to oxygenated blood, right? Now the deoxygenated blood is converted into oxygenated blood in the lungs. These pulmonary veins, these veins, two veins, it brings oxygenated blood from lungs, and it pour down towards one chamber called left atrium. From the left atrium also, the oxygenated blood will go to left ventricle through the opening of valve, this bicuspid valve, and from there the oxygenated blood will be transported to every part of our body through aorta. Aorta is again divided. I have told you aorta is divided into subclavian artery, common carotid artery. This will study. You will study if you go for medicine side. You will learn all this. But this is how the whole concept. This whole concept idea is very, very important. From the exam point of view also, and if you go for higher studies, whether you study medicine, whether you study BSc on everything, course that you pursue, you will get this topic, sure. There's 100%, and this concept is very, very important. How the blood is circulated, throughout our body, all these things, this is very, very important, and you should know this concept idea, right? I will show you flow chart of this. All right. I will show you a very something which is very easy to understand. All right. A flow chart, which you will understand very properly, right? How the blood goes and all these things. I will show you very easy very easy one, flowchart, right, of this whole thing, which goes on. I'll show you now. Alright, this is the flowcharts showing the circulatory system. I have shown you through heart, I have drawn the diagram of heart, and through the heart diagram, I have shown you how the blood is transported and circulated, right? And this flowchart is the same thing which takes place in the heart, and I'm showing you in the flowchart manner. Before I was showing in a diagrammatic presentation, now I'm showing in a flowchart presentation, right? So I have told you that deoxygenated blood comes from body parts, or everywhere, from every parts of the, from hands, legs, other organs, major organs, from all the tissues. All right, the deoxygenated blood means blood which doesn't contain oxygen, means blood doesn't have oxygen. All right. So the deoxygenated blood goes to superior and inferior vena cava. I have already told you before, vena cava, and then it goes to right atrium. The right atrium relax. The right atrium relax. Now the blood here, the deoxygenated blood has already entered right atrium. It relax, but after some time, right atrium will contracts, and because of this contraction, the blood will go to which artery? Pulmonary arteries. Pulmonary arteries. Here the pulmonary arteries are not shown. Right. From the pulmonary arteries, right ventricle. Alright. So pulmonary artery, it's not written here, but you already know pulmonary artery takes away the oxygen blood from right ventricle. Right. From the right ventricle, the right ventral contracts, contracts, and it takes the pulmonary artery takes away deoxygenated blood to lungs, right? And the lungs there is an exchange of gases, all right, and the purification of blood takes place. The lungs convert deoxygenated blood to oxygenated blood, all right, and the oxygenated blood is again transported to left atrium, through which vein? Pulmonary veins. There are two pulmonary veins. I've already shown you before. And from the left atrium it goes to left atrium. Same thing. So relax, contracts, relax. When it contracts, the left atrium opens. When it relaxes, there's no movement of blood. Note it. And it goes to, from the left, when the left atrium contracts, the valve open. Which valve? Bicuspid valve. You don't have to know this bicuspid valve, but you will know in the heart class. So because of opening of the valve, it goes to left ventricle, and the left ventricle wait for some time, relax. It stays for relaxation, and after that it contracts. After contraction, it goes to aorta, right? So this is the one of the base flow chart depicting the circulatory system. And if you write this flow chart in this manner, you write this circulatory system in this manner, and the diagram which I have shown you before, you will fetch a very handsome marks. You will get a good marks, because the flow chart and diagrammatic presentation give visual impression. So you study this properly. This is very, very important. It's very crucial from exam point of view. Regarding the chambers of heart, I'd like to make some clarification. Then we are mammals. We are mammals. Mammals means we are human beings, right? So we have four chambers of heart. Four chambers. Our heart has four chambers. There is two atrium and two ventricles. Chamber, one atrium, two atrium is there, and two ventricles is there. Total are four chambers. But let us consider, let's think over that. Does any animals or any any organism, does it has any? Will they have any three chambered of heart? Of course they have. Those animals which have are amphibians and reptiles. You see frogs and snakes. Why do they go out? During daytime. Why does frog lives both in land and sea? It's because they depend on the temperature in the environment. As simple as it is. they depend on the environment for the temperature, to maintain the body temperature. But for tempered animals like human beings, we can maintain our own, we can regulate our own temperature, isn't it? Because we have four chamber heart, we are able to maintain our own body temperature. But for reptiles and amphibians who have three chambered heart, they could not able to maintain their own temperature. That is why they go out in the daytime. The frog swims on the sea. The frogs lives on the land and both on land and sea, because they have to depend on the outer environment to regulate their body temperature, right? So they are called as, you know what, such reptiles and animals who have three temperatures, they are called as cold-blooded, cold-blooded. In other terms, poicular terms. These terms, these names you will find in when you study zoology, and even in class ornithology you may get. But for class 10 perspective, for class 10 point of view, you have to know only three chambered and four chambered heart. Four chambered heart means human beings and mammals. We have four chambers. Three chambered means reptiles and amphibians, frogs and insects. They have three chambered, right? So in three chambered, sometimes oxygenated and deoxygenated blood are mixed. You know, in our human beings, oxygenated and deoxygenated blood doesn't mix up in heart, alright? Because we have ventricle. A ventricle is carried out by pulmonary artery, alright? Pulmonary artery to the lungs, alright? And when it comes through pulmonary veins, right? And when it goes out again, oxygenated blood, it goes through where? Aorta, alright? So as simple as it, blood doesn't mix up in mammals, right? Since we have four chamber, right, four chamber hearts. But for three chamber heart, like reptiles and amphibians, blood mix up in some chamber, you know, and they are not able to regulate their own body temperature, body homeostasis. You know, that's why they go out on the sun. The reptiles, snakes comes out during daytime. The frogs can live both in sea and land because they have to depend on the outer environment to maintain their own body temperature. And the last one is two-chambered. Two-chambered heart are like fishes. Fishes, you know, they have two-chambered heart, and the blood is transported through gills. You know, in gills, you know, in our dialects, what I say, I can't remember also in the dialect also, but in your in the ear side, you know, there's a gill in the snake. You see gill side, red pattern colors. Such are gills. So the fishes, they maintain blood circulation through gills, and they have only two chamber. So fishes have two chamber, right? So I hope you are clear with the chambers of heart, right? Now we will look into some not so important, but we need to know these basic things, you know. From exam point of view, I don't think a teacher will ask in exam. I don't expect any questions from this topic. This is just a small basic things, right? But you need to keep this in mind. You need to know things. This is blood vessels, you know. Blood vessels. There are two types of blood vessels. One is arteries and veins, right? Artery, you know. Arteries, you know, you remember pulmonary artery, which takes away blood, pulmonary artery which takes away deoxygenated blood from left atrium. These arteries, you know, they carry the blood away from heart to various organs of body. The example is pulmonary arteries, as I've just mentioned. So these arteries and all, they takes away blood from the heart, right? It takes away blood from the heart. As simple as it is, the definition. Veins collects blood from different organs and brings it to the heart. I have told you before also, superior vena cava, inferior vena cava, pulmonary veins, all these things, all these veins, they bring, you know, they collect blood from different parts of the body and bring it to the heart for circulation, right? And another blood vessel is capillaries. It's a smallest blood vessel among the three blood vessels: arteries, veins, and capillaries. Right? Capillaries are smaller blood vessels. You know, we have studied in respiration how blood capillaries help in transportation of diffusion of carbon dioxide and oxygen. You know, oxygen is coming from alveoli towards blood capillaries, and the carbon dioxide is going out from blood capillaries to alveoli. You know, capillaries. This is also important in transport of blood. Right. And the last one, this is different. Blood vessel and lime is different. This lime is another type of fluid like plasma. Right. It's like a plasma. It drains excess fluids from tissues and transport fluids back to that blood. You know, it drains out the fluids. Fluids means any kind of nitrogenous bases, any kind of something fluid, could be pus or any kind of, you know, fluid could be any kind of solution, you know, any kind of solution, mixture of any kind of nitrogenous base or small fatty acids or any kind of things, you know, these are fluids. All right, so lime helps in draining of excess fluids from tissues, transport fluids back to the blood. These are not so important. These are very minute things. But exam point of view, I don't expect any questions from here. But from the long-term perspective, when you go to higher classes, this is very important. This is important because all these things, you know, small things, the basic things you need to know. After the basic things, only you will be able to catch up the bigger concept, bigger topics. All right. So this is not I'm telling you, this is not so important in exam point of view, but learn these things and you should know this basic concept. Okay? Thank you.